let's go through the assignments connected to layouts and grids in Figma. So in this lesson, there's a couple of assignments and you might be kind of wondering what's happening in here and why can't I see it? Well, that's because the grids are connected to the frames that you're working with. So to be able to see it, we first need to solve the first assignment. So we need to turn on the layout grid by using one of these shortcuts. I often use basically like Control G just to turn it on, or you can also use Shift G to turn it on and off. It works like if it's on, it's going to turn it off. If it's off, it's going to turn it on. And now you can see what we need to achieve on all of the other artboards. So you're going to have a grid that you need to compare, and then you need to replicate it in your workspace. Okay, so let's see. We have this. Oh, you can also use zoom view options in here to do so, but yeah, that's fine. Let's see what we need to do in our first real assignment. This one was just to teach us a shortcut. For this assignment, the reference frame was purposely left unlocked. Your task is to manually copy the layout settings to your workspace. Okay, awesome. So we have this. We go in here. You can see just like with shadows, if they're not styles. So in here, I can copy it. If it's a style, I can't. If you go in here, you can copy the layout properties and paste them in here, and your new frame is going to have the same grid settings that you already created. In here, we need to create a repeating 32 by 32 uniform square layout grid. So I'm going to go in here, not auto layout. Don't click that by mistake. It's layout grid. Let's go in here, and it's going to be 32. Awesome. Really easy to do, and it can be really helpful if you really want to have like all of the elements in your design like snap to a particular uniform grid. In here, we're going to create a 4-column grid. Okay, so layout grid, and here, let's go to columns. Let's switch it to 4. And it needs to resize as the frame resizes. So the gutters are going to stay fixed at 24, and the margins are going to be 96. So I think this looks good. Let's test it out. Awesome. That's it. In here, we have our workspace. We need to create a centered 6-column grid. Okay, so let's move to layout grid. Let's create columns. We need 6 of them. They're centered, so instead of stretch, I'm moving it to center. I need to put this at 48, gutters at 24. And if I scale it, you can see that it stays centered. So when you might use this is on websites where you don't want elements on your website to kind of stretch. It usually when you're working with images and you want to have like fixed heights of some things, you don't want those images to stretch on like really large desktops. So you're going to have something that's in design and development world often called a container, which kind of contains all of the content in here. It's also useful on blog sites because you're then kind of limiting the width of the text and how much it's going to stretch. Okay, so what do we have in here? We're gonna create a row grid, so move to rows. That stretches as the height of the frame changes. The margins are gonna be fixed at 48. The gutter is 12. That looks correct. If I resize it to this, looks good. Probably if I resize it to this, it looks good as well. Okay, awesome. In here, we have a workspace. We need to create a layout grid, and it's going to be about rows. Instead of it kind of stretching or being centered, this one is going to be just aligned to the top. It's going to have 2 rows. The height of the rows is going to be 64, and the gutters are going to be set at 16. So no matter how much you kind of resize it, this is the values that are going to be for those rows. And here we're going to create something that's called a baseline grid. If you want to know about why it's useful and like how we use it, it's often connected a lot to typography. because typography and lines of text have something that's called the baseline, which is the line on which most of the characters sit. And you want to have like this visual rhythm on your page where the text is only going to fall onto those baselines. So if you want to create something like this, or if you'd like to learn more about typography and all of the topics, we have the Ultimate UI Typography Masterclass that you can enroll into. It's a great course that covers everything that you need to know as a UI designer about typography. But basically what I want to show in here is how to create it so that no matter how high your frame is that you're going to be working on, you're always going to have those elements appear. So what we need to do in here, we need to move to rows because a baseline is kind of a repeating row. We need to put the count to auto. So you can either go in here and kind of do that, or you can write down something. You can also write down auto, which is basically this. And then you need to make the height of the rows and gutters the same. That kind of gives you this repeating pattern of elements, as you can see in here. So I'm just gonna have it at 8 and 8. And in here, we're gonna put it from the top. So that's really important because we have this auto setting. And now you can see no matter how big I make this, it's just like giving me that repeating baseline. Okay, and then let's see what do we have in here for our like final assignment before your final module assignment. We have the workspace that needs to contain 2 frames. Oh, awesome. So this is the more context, this is more needed in the context of web apps where you have like the sidebar that's going to be fixed. So it's not going to stretch across the screen because that would be really weird. And on some larger screens, the sidebar could be like really too big. And then you might have the content on the screen that's just going to either resize or maybe stay fixed. It's up to preference and like what's going to work for your project. So what we're going to do in here in this workspace frame, we're going to create a sidebar first. I'm just gonna color it by using a fill that we have in here, something like this, or maybe a little bit darker so it's easier to see. I'm not sure if there's like a fixed width that the sidebar needs to have. If not, I'm just gonna use something like 200. And it's gonna have a layout grid of its own. So that's the reason why we're working with 2 frames, because then you can basically have different rules for the grid settings that you're using on each of those frames. And that's how it would work in development. So like you would have, oh, the width of this element on the left side of the screen is going to be 200 pixels wide. And then like everything else on the screen is going to be wide by taking the width of the browser width and removing the 200 pixels on the left, and then you have the box that's left, and that's kind of how you calculate that size. And then you can use that width that's left, and inside of it create a centered container grid, a centered container that's gonna kind of have a column grid that you can use to place all of the other elements inside. So we're gonna move to columns in here, just create 2. Honestly, none of this is like really important. You can honestly make it just like 1 column if you want to. And then we're gonna create a different frame in here. So it's gonna be this one. And I'm gonna make it left and right. I'm gonna make this, well, I can also make it left and right? But it should stay fixed. Okay, I'm gonna play around with that in the end just to kind of demo one thing. But yeah, I think this is gonna be fine. And in here, what do we have to do? We're gonna have to remove the color in here because that's not gonna be needed. And we need how many columns? Probably 12. And let's make them the margins a little bit bigger and something like this. So let's see if this works. Yeah, that's perfect. As you can see, works really well and does the job. Now, one other thing that could be done, and which I often use, is instead of having it to stretch, I'm going to set it to centered. I'm going to maybe make these Like right now I'm using smaller numbers because this is not like, this would be a desktop size that you're going to be working with. So in here now we can use some of the sizes that are maybe going to be used in an app like that, and see how that's going to work. So what happens in here, if you have a really large desktop, you can see that this part stays centered. So yeah, resizing it back, and we've solved all of the grid settings that we had to cover in here.